Okay, we are finished with the Renaissance, and this week we are going to cover the Baroque time period. And it sounds like broke, but you put a little Baroque between it, so it sounds correct. And it is also split kind of into two sections. You have the Italian and Spanish Baroque, and then you have everywhere else, the Northern, like Flemish, German, all that stuff. And then we're going to throw in a little bit of America's colonial America in there as well, because that was happening during the Baroque period, although it looked very different here in America. So we're going to do Italy and Spain today and tomorrow, and then the rest of it Wednesday, Thursday, and then have our quiz on Friday. So make sure you're aware that the Portuguese word for Baroque, Baroque, let's start that again. Baroque is a Portuguese word, and it means grotesque or irregular. So that's where it comes from. Obviously, they did not name this themselves. Other countries named this time period. Other peoples, other time periods named this time period later. It means flamboyant and unrestrained, which just means it's. I wouldn't call it flamboyant by today's standards at all, but compared to like the Renaissance and stuff like that, they would say that. It was in the late 1600s to about 1780. And in some places, the very end of that, the last 40 or 50 years is called Rococo, and we'll talk about that later. Okay. All Baroque art emphasizes emotions.
Good morning.
Okay, so got interrupted, not quite remember where I am, but main thing you need to remember about this top one is Baroque art is about emphasizing emotions. It's not about literal interpretations or presenting historical facts or whatever. It is all about emotions. Same thing on this bottom one, emotional appeal, and they do that by using strong contrast in their lighting. You know, there's really heavy darks, really heavy lights. We'll talk about chiaroscuro again. Swirling movement, really big forms to get across a point. Asymmetry, which means it's not balanced down the middle, and intense warm colors. So that's how they make it show emotion. The church is again a major part of the arts. Lots of the art we're going to look at is on cathedral walls. That's in Catholic churches. In Protestant churches, art was not allowed because they didn't want to look like a Catholic church. But there are some paintings that were commissioned for homes and public buildings for that in that area as well. Okay, so just like the Renaissance, the Baroque began in Rome, and then it spread throughout Europe. Okay, so kind of showing you this is the area where the Baroque time period took place. Okay, so we'll start with a little bit of architecture and sculpture. So this is the Vatican City, an area of the Vatican City. And if you remember, this is Michelangelo's dome here on the top of that cathedral. And this is St. Peter's Cathedral. But the part that's Baroque is what's called this palisade, which is these two long, skinny. I hope you can see my mouse here. I'm not sure you can, so I'll show you that. It's this right here and this thing. Terrible job of drawing. This little area right here. This is the palisade, and this is the part of this that is Baroque. So huge lodge forms, a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit more like crazy and brash. That's what Baroque is all about. So this is the palisade, and it is considered Baroque, and you do not have to know the architect, although this is his name over here on the journal. Okay. That's just a look of it. Okay. This is another David. So you remember we've had two Davids, but this is Bernini's David. And you should notice a huge difference in Bernini's David between Donatello's and Michelangelo's Davids. Pretty stiff compared to this. This has a lot of movement, a lot more emotion. It's asymmetrical because he's bent over to the side like that. It shows a lot of those characteristics of the Baroque time period that we've talked about. So you should easily be able to tell that this one is Baroque, and then the one that's Baroque starts with the B is Bernini. So if we put all three Davids next to each other, you could remember that this one's Bernini because it's from the Baroque time period. Okay. He was also considered probably what we would call him a Renaissance man. He's one of the few in Baroque that was very much involved in a lot of different things. He was a composer. He wrote dramas. He was a sculptor, an architect, and a painter. So make sure you realize that Bernini would be considered a Renaissance man. Okay, here's just another view of this. Okay. All right, this is also called Bernini's Fountain. This is in Venice, I believe. I don't have this on here, but I'm almost sure it's in Venice. And this is called the Fountain of the Four Rivers. If you go to Venice, it's one of the most famous tourist sites in Venice that you can go to. It's kind of hard to see. I wish you could see it a little better. There's a lot of horses in there. It's kind of a battle type scene, but you can't really see it very well. Sorry. Hopefully you understand it. Okay, last one for today. This is Architecture of the Baroque. And again, it looks Renaissance-like in that it kind of has 3 layers. I mean, if you look over here to the right, you can see the 3 layers. But then on the corner, it's like it's not squared off on the corner. It's got this off balance look to it. It's wavy. That's very Baroque, very decorated, highly ornamental. So it has its 3 layers. 1, 2, 3. See if you guys can see that. Do this again. This is 1, this is 2, and then this is 3. You can see that again. But this is Baroque, so make sure you can recognize this. You do not have to know the name of the building. You don't have to know who was the architect. You just have to recognize that this is a Baroque style. Okay, and that is where we will stop for today.